Welcome to another session of OMIS 302, Introduction to Production Management. Today we would want to delve into facility layout. We've seen, what's it called, things done by operations or productions department. We've seen issues, characteristics, types of production systems, total quality management, and a whole lot of stuff. Today we want to look at facility layout, which is one critical aspect of production design. Now, facility layout basically talks about how we arrange, or the arrangement of equipment or production units in any production house or on a factory floor. Now, what informs, or what are the reasons why a particular factory would want to arrange its equipment in a certain fashion? So, we say that for a layout, facility layout, technically it is the arrangement of machines, departments, workstations, storage areas, and common areas within an existing or proposed facility. Okay, so we could do it for a new facility, or we could consider reorienting our layout in an already existing facility. Now, saying that, what would be the reason why we want to study this concept? One, we would want to have an efficient layout just to ensure that there's a smooth flow of work, the efficient flow of material, people, and information. And you would understand that these things are key to every production process. Now, if we can have a smooth flow of work, there's always going to be issues of backtracking, people bumping into each other. You have issues of material handling, and all this will come at a cost to the organization. The organization would want to ensure that things flow in a certain fashion that enhances production. So we say that through every system, we would want to look at these four characteristics: that the smooth flow of work, material, people, and information. Now, we're saying that layout decisions also affect quality and competitiveness. And I think this, I may have answered that already, but if you look at it from this point of view, if we have a very haphazard layout, you could find issues of damages being occurring to machines or probably products or outputs, that things that come out from our production process, and that could also affect quality. Now, if you also have a very bad layout, you're going to be having lots of wastages, and that will not augur well for your competitiveness. A competitive firm is one that operates at high efficiency, which culminates into low wastages. So, what are some of the characteristics of an effective layout? We say that an effective layout typically would help minimize movement and material handling costs. You utilize space and labor effectively. It eliminates bottlenecks. It reduces manufacturing cycle time and customer service time. I think this is really key to any organization: customer service time. We spoke about timeliness as part of quality dimensions for services. Now, if you have a very bad layout, production will keep going back and forth, and it takes longer time than expected to complete production process, and that would result into giving products, bad services regarding time, or you'll be giving your customers services in a non-timely manner. It also eliminates wastage and redundant movements. It incorporates security and safety measures. It promotes product and service quality, and it also encourages proper maintenance activities. Then the obvious one is it increases your capacity. Now, so there are three basic types of production layouts. We will look at the process, or what we call the functional layout. We'll look at the product layout, and then the fixed position layout. This is not saying that these are the only types of layouts. There are other types that we can look at. We can look at the computerized layouts, but for the purposes of this discipline, or what we're studying now, we'll just concentrate on these three and have a fair idea of what they are, and see how we can get a little deeper into them if there need be. Now, for process of functional layouts, the word functional there is just we giving us a pointer. We're saying that facility layouts typically talk about how equipment or how our factory floor is going to be arranged and how we're going to put everything in order. Now, functional layout is just basically saying that you arrange your factory floor, or you put equipment, you arrange them in a manner in which it's based on whatever functions that are done. So it says that you group similar activities together in a department or work centers according to the process or functions they perform. If you come to the university environment, if you go to a block, and the whole block, we say it's the account section. You see, anything that goes on there has to do with payment of fees, clearing checks, receiving checks, and all that. You notice that everything that has to do with finance happens within that block. Then you could go to another block. It says it's the academic block. Or you go. So you see, it gives you a fair idea that at a particular place, everything that happens there shares similar characteristics, and that's a typical kind of process layout. Now, typically, process layouts are adopted in service organizations or service institutions. Now, the characteristics of intermittent operations, service shops, job shops, or batch production. So, typically, these are some of the areas that we adopt this process or the functional layouts. Now, another characteristic here is that equipment is the general purpose, and the workers are skilled at operating the equipment in their particular department. And so you wouldn't find an accountant doing the work of an HR person within the accounts department. You get it? So workers actually are skilled at operating equipment or doing specifically what is peculiar to their department. So this is an image of a typical environment, and there are about, let's say, to the best of my view, I have about 5 units. You see where the lady is in red by the secretary. That's more like maybe the first place of core, and then there's another one to your right. You see, so you notice that everyone there or seated behind a desk there is doing something peculiar. And so what is done on the left side, where the lady is in the red suit, it's not the same thing that will be done by this thing. So you see, the grouping or the arrangement is done according to whatever they perform within that specific location or workstation. Now, so we say some examples of process layouts you find in supermarkets. Typically, you go to a supermarket, you find out that, you know, we have children clothing at one part, you have groceries, you have vegetables, you know, everything is put at a particular place. So you don't find, let's say, sugar where frozen vegetables or fresh fish and stuff are found. You find all that, or drinkables, you find them on the shelf somewhere, not where you find shoes or tinned items. Okay, and then so for a machine shop, you also find a drill, you have a lathe, a milling machine. All these things are placed according to whatever functions or the things they perform. So process layouts have some advantages. We say there is flexibility, low finished goods inventory. So here there is flexibility in the sense that you can easily move in between departments. You know, you are not forced to go by a certain specific means of production or procedural kind of order of production. Now, so that they also have some potential disadvantages, and these disadvantages result into inefficiencies. Now, we are saying that jobs or customers do not flow through the system in an orderly manner. If you take your mind back to the image that we posted here, so let's go back and check it. See, there isn't a specific order in which work could be done here. And so you could start from one point, move to another place, come back to where you started from before you could move to another place. So this is, it's quite, you know, it could result in some amount of inefficiencies because you find issues of backtracking. And so that's the second point. We say that backtracking is common. You find yourself moving back and forth in just getting one particular service. Now, movement from department to department can take a considerable amount of time. And so, like we said, work is done in functional areas. And so, if one part of the work is done, it must be transported to another unit where probably work could be continued. And so, moving from one unit or one department or one workstation to another all constitutes some amount of time going by, and that could result in some inefficiency. So, the queues could also develop. each new arrival may require that an operation be set up differently, its particular processing requirement. And so all these things could be sources of inefficiencies in our layout. So what, like we said, everything has its advantages and its disadvantages. It encourages flexibility, but it has its disadvantages as well. Now, the second one we want to look at is the product layout. The product layout is typically adopted in manufacturing environments. So it says that here we arrange activities in a line according to the sequence of production for a particular product. So here there is certain order in which production is done. We move from one point to another. And so hardly would you find some kind of production in this manner, or what we call the line production. Hardly would you find us going back and forth within the same production line. Once the finished item at one point moves to the second step, it shouldn't come back to the previous step that it moved from. So it moves from one point to the other until it falls off or it comes off at the end as a finished product. And so we see special machines can be purchased to match the product-specific processing requirements, and there's high level of automation in this kind of layout. And so cast your mind, look at a typical car manufacturing firm, or the normal one that we have in Ghana here, the typical sachet water making firms, those that are quite automated. Work is done in a certain manner, where there's this conveyor belt, the water falls off and it's packed in the bags and it's sealed and used off until it's loaded onto the truck. It's a typical example of a product layout. It has its advantages. We say it is efficient, it's easy to use, there's a small storage space required, and it allows for no in-process inventory because it's a line. You get one thing moves from one point to the other. And so you have to make sure that production is done sequentially. Once I am receiving, I am giving. The moment someone is receiving and not giving, there's going to be some queuing or some piling up. So there is no process inventory in this kind of and it works well. So work flows all the time, because once there is a certain break or a blockage, the entire system would be broken down. Okay, now some disadvantages here. Well, unlike the previous instance, in this case there is the lack of flexibility. There is inflexibility, and so you cannot easily make changes to the layout to suit maybe some different order or order sizes or something. You will just be forced to work within the procedure or the order in which you have. And then when demand volume decreases, it's obvious your cost would be high, because fixed costs will have to spread over fewer units, and which means higher prices. Okay, so typically this kind of layout also augurs well for instances where production is done in large volumes. Okay, so there's a major concern here is balancing the assembly line. When we talk of balancing the assembly line, it's how are we going to ensure that each workstation or each unit where work is done, the same amount or the same unit of time is allotted or is used. I think that would be the most appropriate. The same unit of time is used, so that if we are all using 2 minutes to produce whatever we have or to do what we have to do at each unit, once you are done 2 minutes, I pass it on, I receive in that order. So there can be an instance where on the line, one unit or one workstation uses, let's say, 2 minutes and another one uses 4 minutes. When that happens, there's going to be queuing, there's going to be bottlenecks in the system. So we'll look at how we deal with this balancing the line.